Welcome to Child Care Wherever America's three-part webinar series on early brain development, tools, and resources. This evening is our last webinar of the three-part series, and we're going to focus on the daily Vroom app. We're going to talk about how to download the app and how to use the features in the Vroom app. I'm Patience Hill. I'm the Community Engagement Specialist here at Child Care Wherever America for the Vroom Partnership, and I also have Mary Lamencia joining me. Hi, Mary.
Hello, everyone. Mary again. I was with you for the first two webinars. If you happened with us, I hope you were. We're going to move forward, if you will, to continue on with this series. But before we really get into the app with Patience, I want to do a quick review with all of you just to double check our memory and see how we're doing, and as well as emphasize some of the key points. So I'm going to do a quick true and false. I'm going to read a statement, and then after each statement, I'll give you a little bit of a pause, and I want you just to think in your mind, is that true or is it false? I'll give you about 30 seconds on that, and then I will explain each one of them to you. So let's look at the first one. So stir up those memory cells, everybody. At birth, the infant's brain is the most mature organ in the body. Think about that. Okay, time's up. Actually, that one is false. If you recall what we said earlier in our previous webinar, the brain is the most immature organ in the body at birth. Something to remember. Okay, let's look at our second one. A young child's brain develops gradually during the first 3 years of life from the top to the bottom. Okay, you got a couple seconds, think on that one. All right, again, this question or this statement is false. Where we said the brain develops gradually, it actually surges during those first 2,000 days, roughly 5 years, and it starts from the bottom of the brainstem at the base of the neck going up to the top of the brain, and that's as the skills become more complicated. So initially we're dealing with touch, just the basic sensory ones, and then we get into more complicated skills as the brain develops higher and higher, and obviously that goes along with birth through 5. Okay, our third one now. How the baby's brain will develop its foundation for learning is sculpted by the relationships the baby experiences. Think on that. Okay, I'm not giving you a whole lot of time to think about that one because you should know that one. It is definitely true because that's what we're all about. Both positive and negative experiences define the quality of the child's brain development. So remember, it's these interactions and the relationships that they have between this time that are so critical. And if you remember, I said before that this period is both an opportunity, a time of opportunity, and a time of vulnerability. So it's those positive experiences we need. Okay, number 4. We are born with the most brain synapses we will ever have. Time to think. This was one of those tricky ones we got up in high school in a way, but I did do a little tricky on you, that one. We're not born with the most brain synapses we will ever have. We're born with the most brain neurons or brain cells. Brain cells are called neurons. Remember, we don't get any more of those, for any great distance after birth. but it's the synapses that are created. That's that when one brain cell talks to the other, and that happens based on the stimulation a child receives during those interactions and those relationships. So that's what you need to remember. You're born with the most brain cells or neurons, and the synapses happen when they interact. Okay, number 5. A child's brain more than doubles in mass during the first year after birth and reaches 80% of its adult size by 2 years of age. By the age of 5, children's brains have grown to approximately 90% full size. We don't even need to have a time to think about that one, because if you've been following all along, you know that that one's true. Let me emphasize again, 80% approximately, the brain is developed by the age of 2, 24 months. And then by the age of 3, 85%, and by 5, 90 to 95%. So I ask you, where are our children during that time, and what are their experiences like? And the last one, I think you probably know the answer because I think I gave it away in one of our previous ones, but yes, the brain develops from the top to the bottom? No, from the bottom to the top. Remember, brain stem at the base of the neck and then going up. The skills that start out are touch, muscle reaction, visual, smell, and progresses to more complex skills over time and experiences. And these would include such things as speech, memory, and those complicated thinking skills. Now, you guys being providers, you know what those are all about. You deal with those every day in your classroom, and as your children grow older and older, you can see how the brain is developing farther up because you're getting into more of those complicated skills. So we just wanted to do that quick refresher so that we reminded everybody about what Vroom was all about. So Vroom takes all this science knowledge and they're translating it into what we call user-friendly language with suggestions or tips. And so let's take a look at one of those tips. This one is, it looks like a classroom probably. It may be something that you could relate to for sure. They're dancing, and again, looking at the tip is on the left, and it's called If You're Happy and You Know It. I know you guys know that song. You probably have it in your dreams at night if you've been singing it in the classroom. But we're looking at the approximate ages of 2 to 3 in the lower left-hand corner. I don't think I need to read through that tip, but again, tips are for parents and providers, so it relates to anything that you may be doing during the day. And of course, going over to the right, the very important brainy background. This is that information that Vroom has taken from the research scientists, and they've translated it so that you and me can really understand and appreciate the true value of what this activity has done for the child's brain development. And you think you were just standing up singing and dancing and getting exercise, but you really are stimulating that brain development. Remember, these tips include those 5 brain building basics of looking and watching each other, following each other, chatting, talking, singing as they're doing here, taking turns, and then even stretching it a little bit farther to see what maybe next is happening in this song or what next they might want to come up with. So I really hope that learning more and more about Vroom as we've gone through these webinars is really making you happy, and you know it.
Okay, Mary. So now that we've kind of had a quick review of the science behind Vroom, and we went over what a Vroom tip looks like, in our last webinar on the Vroom tips, we talked about how you can access several hundred on the website. We went through instructions for that. But now we want to talk about how to get the multitude of tips, and those are over 1,000 tips on the Daily Vroom app. So on the Daily Vroom app, you can use it on Android, iOS, or even with the Amazon Fire device. But we really encourage you to use this app in the classroom because it rewards those positive behaviors that you're already doing with your children, and it also encourages parents as well as you to keep using the app for more activities on how to engage with children and show you how you're helping build their brains, because you already have what it takes to be a brain builder. So now we're going to talk about how to download the app. So this instruction is going to show you how to download it for iOS or an Android device. So we're going to start with the iPhone. So as you can see, you're going to go straight to your App Store. And most people know how to get to App Store if you do have a smartphone. So those are the two screens to show you how to download it from the App Store. Now we're going to go into the App Store, and you're going to do the search tool. And it's very important that you put in Daily Vroom. So again, we're showing you what it looks like on the iPhone and then what it looks like on Android.
Patience, you said Daily Vroom, and I know we've been saying all along when they go to the internet or the web, they should put in Join Vroom. So we definitely need to make sure that they know that when you go to the App Store, the app is actually called Daily Vroom, emphasizing that these tips can come to them daily, right?
Correct, Mary.
Okay.
Yes, we want to make sure you put in Daily Vroom. So we're at your search tool. And now you type in Daily Vroom, whether it's your iPhone, whether it's your Android. And then you'll see the icon for the Daily Vroom app. Again, we're showing it for the iPhone, as well as what it will look like on an Android.
Oh, Patience, I got to share something with everybody. You see the circle, the logo, if you will, for Vroom? It's two, if you will, orange O's, a large one and a small one. I remember speaking with the individuals at Vroom, and they were sharing with us that the large circle, is to represent family or parents, the adults. They overlap with the smaller circle representing the child because of their connection, that interaction. So I think they were very thoughtful in what they chose to do with this and to promote it. And they chose the color orange because orange represents energy. And that's certainly what birth to 5 have, a lot of energy.
Thank you for sharing that, Mary. That is very true. So every time you see this icon on your phone now, you'll know what it represents. So we're going to keep going here, and we're going to download the app. So you're going to accept the terms for both Android and iPhone.
And you know what? The terms, remember, it's totally free. And they're not going to have commercials on there for you, thank goodness. You know how all our apps are nowadays. No commercials. And again, it's totally free. You'll never be charged, and they're not going to send you their email list or anything to anybody else. So it is a safe and secure app for you to use.
Yes. So, okay, we're going to open the app now. So the first thing it says is, would you like to send notifications? You can start off by having a notification just as a reminder. So every day, if it's 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, while you're in the classroom, you can get a little ding, and it'll send you your Vroom tip of the day. But then after a while, you may decide to turn it off and go into the app when you would like. And we'll talk more about that later. So this is a screen that you will see next. And then we're going to go to how to log into the app. You can join with email, Facebook. Also, on Android, you can use your Gmail account, create your account to log in. And you do have to create an account to use this app. But again, like Mary said, it will not sell your email address. There won't be any ads, so your information is safe. So now you're going to just enter your email address, create a password. This is pretty standard for most apps that you download. And then you just agree to the terms that Mary just emphasized earlier. All right, and this kind of shows you a screenshot of where it does have that screen that says, do you want those notifications? And again, you can set it to on or off. And then if you do have it on, you can choose what time you want it.
And you can go, once you decide this, you can go back in and change those times.
Correct. Yes, you can always go back and change the time or just turn it off temporarily if you would like. So now we're going to look more using the Daily Vroom app. So the first thing is you have to add a child's name and their birth date. So you're just adding their first name, and then it's very important to add the birth date because the tips that you receive will be based on their age. So as they get older each year, the tips will progress to a different category up to age 5. So here you see it says child's first name, your child's date of birth, then you choose boy or girl, because they will use pronouns in the tip as well as customize the tip of the child's name. And then at the bottom, you can see that you can add another child. So we know Vroom focuses on children birth through 5. So you can add as many children as you like with the age group of birth to 5. And again, if you have a child that is older than 5, it's not saying that they can't use these activities or this app as well. But the way the app is set up, you will put it in their age, birth to 5.
Are you saying that there's the app can be used by the child?
Well, no, the parent actually will use the app, or the provider will use the app. But if you have a child in your classroom that's 6 or 7, and you have an activity that you would like to do, it's not stopping them from doing the app with that 6-year-old or 7-year-old.
But there's no screen time for the child.
There's no screen time, but we will talk later about how children can get excited about doing these activities with their parents because of the app.
Oh, great. Okay.
So next you'll see you can add a picture here. And this is more for parents who download the app. So a provider might choose not to actually add an image here. And you can actually skip this as well. So it's not mandatory to do, but it's something cute to do. And you can see the smaller circle and the bigger circle, as Mary explained before, of the parent and the child, and also the shape of Vroom's logo. And so once you get past that part, this is the notification that pops up before you get started. And again, you see the look, the chat, follow, stretch, and take turns. We keep emphasizing this because these are Vroom's key brain building basics. So again, you see it in the app, you heard about it with the tips and the brain background, and we're emphasizing it again here.
And I think their point is to really emphasize the fact that they're not talking about elaborate activities and plan for materials and all that. It's just basic things that one does with a young child, actually with each other, because we talk and we follow and we chat and so on and so forth. So it's just basic things. It's not anything elaborate. And
then here you see we have the tip categories that are in the app. So the first title is We're at Home, and it says changing diapers, getting dressed, snack time, playtime, cleaning up, laundry, mealtime, bath time, and bedtime.
You know, Patience, you look at those categories, and even though it says you're at home, you could be at home in the physical home, or you could be at home in your classroom, because certainly you have diapering time for many, you have feeding time, you have nap time. So even though it says home, think of it as where your home base is. That could really be helpful.
Yeah, correct. And to go along with that point, on the go, sometimes providers are taking field trips or at the park. So again, we have on the bus or train, on foot, in the car. We also have at the store, at the park, at an appointment, or up for anything. We can get a random tip. So these are the categories here, the main categories where the tips will come out of. But again, as a provider, you can choose which category that you think might be more appropriate for your classroom at that time.
Right, so the app, if you're with a classroom and you have one approximate age group, let's say 2 to 3, it would be always sending you a tip that's 2 to 3. Now, if you have multiple age children in a family home center, then you might put in multiple children with the different ages and then different times for that tip to come through. Or you can have them come through the day before and then you download those, or you write them up in your lesson plans and that type of thing that you may be having. So you plan to have that memory for yourself of what you're going to do with the children at different times.
Yes, and again, they have up for anything, so that could be a tip from any of these categories. So there's a lot of flexibility and customization when you decide how you want to use this app in your own classroom.
Yeah, the flexibility is what's great. That's what works.
And then here you'll see we pulled out some of those categories that really might speak to a provider. We have snack time, playtime, cleaning up, mealtime, or at an appointment. These all could be themes that providers see every day. And again, Vroom is coming to you and adjusting to your daily routine. You're not trying to go out of your way to do Vroom. We're trying to layer it on to what you're already doing with your children.
Boy, you know, I can't say that there isn't any provider listening to this today that doesn't have all one of those things, even an appointment, like as if we have to run down and see a special program or we have a guest visitor. So those are actually, it's so obvious how easily this fits into anybody's program.
And then here you see what it looks like if you have multiple children. In this example, there are 2 children, and there are 2 different tips for both of those children. And one of the things that I really want to highlight is on the right side, where that red circle is, it says, created by a parent like you. And we're going to also show you how to do that. And this means that somebody using the Vroom app submitted their own idea for a tip. It was reviewed by the Vroom team and made sure it wasn't a duplication, and then it was put into rotation and added to the app. So this is very exciting to know that if you don't see something that you think should be in here, you can just submit it, and you can also submit it through the app as well as the website, as we told you about a few weeks earlier.
I don't know. I think I'd rather go to the website rather than type it on a keyboard instead of typing with my pointer finger on the cell phone. But either way, the important thing is to know that everybody has a voice in this. Parents, they're really looking out to parents and providers, all of us who work with children, to offer those ideas because, you know, they know that they can't possibly have covered everything. And there are different cultural communities that may have different mores, different patterns, different actions that they do with the children. And so they'd love to have all of that shared with them so that they can adapt it and put it into the Vroom app. So they're open arms to everybody.
And then, Mary, earlier you mentioned, was there any screen time for the children?
Yeah.
So this is definitely an app for the parent or the provider. But one of the exciting things is the kids are still engaged within the app because, first of all, they hear a ding when the notification comes, so they know it's time to do something with Vroom today. And then also, when they finish the activity, the parent will, or the provider will go back in the app and mark that they completed the activity. And after you complete so many activities, you start to earn badges. So this screen here shows you what it's like to earn a badge. And not only do you see this nice, colorful image, but also there's a little animation that goes along with it. So that it's very exciting for the kids to know that I spent time with my provider, I spent time with my parent, and I got rewarded for that. So it also encourages that interaction and makes the child want to do it as well as the parent or the provider.
You know what, I was thinking providers, as you're doing these tips and maybe as you get an award, you get a badge, you could replicate that badge on a postcard or whatever and stick it up on your calendar and say, look what we earned today.
I think that's a great idea, Mary.
Yeah, I think that, you know, that would easily incorporate and bring the children into the, you know, the earning of the badges, and they would have the daily recognition of, look, up there on Monday we earned that badge together, yay.
And then, as I mentioned earlier, you can submit your own tips through the app. So when you want to submit your own tip, it's on the menu, and then you would click submit your own tip, and you get to this screen here. So as you can see at the top, the first thing you're going to do is pick your category, and then you're going to write a name for your Vroom tip, and then you're going to actually write out what the activity or engagement is.
I have a suggestion. If you're like me, I can be wordy. Patience knows that. So if I were you, I'd write it out first, make sure that you can squeeze it into those 360 characters, and then go back with your pointer finger and type it in on the cell phone or go to your keyboard. But write it out first, because I can be wordy, you know that.
And also, don't forget to add your contact email at the end. That's very important. And then you would submit your tip that way.
And don't be surprised if you don't get a phone call or an email from Vroom, just wanting to discuss and make sure that they understand your tip and you know, that you are totally in agreement with what they're going to do if they reword anything that you wrote, because no doubt they'd probably reword something that I wrote, so do for it.
And so the really exciting thing is now that parents and providers have this Vroom app, they're able to use it, and we can see how it enhances their life or how it just folds into what they're already doing with their children. So we do have a few examples that we want to show you of feedback that we have received from people we've reached out to through our Vroom ambassadors. So this one was really interesting to me, and I love the picture that they submitted. So the quote was, "We were playing outside one day, and I opened Vroom for an activity idea, and the make a face came up. And we had a blast making many different faces and talking about if they were happy or sad. So this is a very simple activity, maybe something that providers and parents do on a daily basis or whenever they go outside. But what was interesting was they were able to go into the app, find an activity that they were actually able to do at that time. And as you can see, the picture of what the child made with rocks and leaves shows that it's something so simple, but you know they had a lot of fun doing the activity together. And then they were able to see that brain background on how they were helping build their child's brain.
And so think about it. Go back to those 5 basics. You know, you're out there with the children on the playground. Okay, looking for something to make a face with. Man, there's so many things out there, as you can see here. And then you're chatting, you're talking about it. Well, what did you choose to use to make the eyes? And look at the rocks and then the smaller rock for the iris. I mean, you're really looking at more complicated or complex thinking skills and processing skills. So you're doing so much. And I don't know if you remember before when I said, looking at those little heads, just remember there's sparklers going off in those brains as those neurons are making synapses and they're thinking and they're running out and finding leaves and looking at the shapes. They had to think about the shape for that leaf, for that smile. And look at that nose, how cute that is. So again, it's validating that what you do as early childhood providers is one of the most important jobs in all of the field of education. You're building the brain for our future citizens.
Well said, Mary. And then here we have another quote. It says, "My husband and I both download the app for our phones for our 2-year-old son. We really enjoy the pick your own feature to select an activity for something we are doing. For example, we had a little bit longer of a car ride ahead of us, and our room suggested looking for shapes. I was amazed that he picked a star and was able to locate many stars on our drive." This is from a parent in Ohio. How simple but profound and awesome is that activity to do with your child while you're in the car? You can't control how long you're going to be in the car, but now you're having fun, you're engaging your child, and again, you're building your child's brain.
Wonderful, absolutely. And I'm sure everybody has done it.
And then this one. This parent says, "It's free, which is important with a fixed income. I love that I don't need anything but me and my child." Again, very simple but very powerful statement. Vroom comes to you where you are.
It speaks relationship, doesn't it? Yeah, love that picture.
So now we're just going to talk about a few of those frequently asked questions about the Daily Vroom app and see if we can answer some of your questions with these answers here. So one of the questions that we get a lot is there a charge for the Daily Vroom app? No, there's no charge. All you need is a smartphone or a Fire Kindle to use the app, and you will never be charged for the app. And there's no ads on the app. So again, this is truly free. Do I need a smartphone to use the Daily Vroom app? As I said before, you can download the app from the Apple Store, from the Google Play Store, but also if you have a Kindle, you can use the app as well. So you don't necessarily need a smartphone if you have a Kindle. So again, that's Apple, Android, and the Kindle.
And again, there's always the library if you don't have a smartphone at all. Go to the library and download and put it on your computer.
Yes, joinvroom.org. You can download hundreds of tips. And here's another question. Is the Daily Vroom app for providers or the children? And we kind of answered that earlier, but we wanted to emphasize that again. The app suggests activities you can do with the children in your care. And again, the children can see the progress and the badges earned after completing the activity with you. So again, this is not another app that you just put in front of your child to do to keep them busy. This is something that you go to find an activity to do with the children. How much storage will the Daily Vroom app use on my device? So we don't really have a definitive answer for this, but from what we've seen, it could take up around 10 to 13 megabytes. So compared to most apps, it's very small amount of space. Is there a Spanish version of the Daily Vroom app? Yes, you can definitely get the Daily Vroom app in Spanish, but what you'll have to do is go into the settings of your phone and change the language or the preference to Spanish. And again, if you need more details on how to do this, you can visit joinvroom.org, and they have more detailed instructions on how to do that.
Plus, they have that email address there about info@joinvroom.org, where if they want to ask a specific question, they can send an email to them, and then Vroom will definitely respond. So if you have more of a complicated question, feel free to send it to them, and they will respond.
Correct, Mary. Thank you for that. Next, can I add more than one child in a daily Vroom app? As you see from the example we had, you definitely can add more than one child. You can have multiple children in the app. All you need is a first name and a birth date. So even if you don't have any children, if you're a parent, don't have children, or if you're a provider and your children are not 0 to 5, you can still put in any name and put in a birth date to start receiving those age-appropriate tips. And if you have a classroom, let's say you have 2 to 3-year-olds in your class, and you're always going to have 2 to 3-year-olds. And so you put your birth date in, and then the next year, just make sure you adjust that birth date so you still receive those age-appropriate tips for 2 to 3.
You know what, a center director or maybe the curriculum manager for a particular program, you know, let's say they have various age ranges. They could put in a child's name for each one of the age ranges. They could receive that tip on a daily basis, and then they could share it with their staff during that day, however they want to do it. It's available to anybody and everybody, but if that's type of an organizational structure that they would need to do that, it's certainly something they could do.
And then again, we have, what if I teach children older than 5? Again, I emphasize, you can go into the app, put in any name and any birth date to start receiving tips, and those tips can be applied to a 6-year-old, a 7-year-old, 8-year-old as well. So again, although this is for 0 to 5, anyone can do these activities.
Oh, absolutely. And you know, patients, all our providers certainly know that just because it's specified an age range of 0 to 1, it doesn't mean that a 15-month-old child or an 18-month-old child can't be doing something, because we all develop at different stages and rate and speeds and so on and so forth. So I'm sure they could be very familiar with that.
Can I get reminders? So this goes back to those notifications. You can definitely set it up to get a notification a certain time of day that you would like to do a Vroom activity within your classroom. But again, if you want to just turn that off and just go into the app whenever you choose, that's a possibility as well. So now we're just going to share how you can share the Vroom app with other providers and with your parents. So there is a Daily Vroom app postcard. You can access this postcard on the website on joinvroom.org, download it and share it with parents.
Right.
If for some reason you really want the glossy postcards, you can set up an account with Vroom. Again, you will email info@joinvroom.org and tell them that you're interested in purchasing these app cards, and they will just sell it to you at cost. And
but you know, you can also download this, like you said. You can share it with them at parent meetings. Oh my goodness! Or in your usual newsletter, post it up on the bulletin board. I mean, there's all different ways that you can share this to get the word out to parents that this is a tool that you really can't live without.
Yeah, and then you can also just put a link to the Vroom website where they can also see how to download the app and just add it to your website. Again, parent newsletter, like Mary said, parent meetings. You can also sit at home in a packet with your child or children in your facility. So there's definitely different ways you can share this app and get it to parents as well.
There's that website again, Join Vroom. Remember, if you don't put the word join in there, you're going to hear a lot about cars. So put Join Vroom in first.
So again, we want to thank you for listening to us talk today about the Daily Vroom app. The important website is up there, joinvroom.org. That's where you can download all the resources that we've talked about over the past 3 webinars. We also have the social media pages. You can see the tips and actions shared on those pages. You can go to the YouTube channel and put in Join Vroom and see tons of videos that you might want to share with parents at parent night, and again, get them to download the app. And also you see those icons for the ways that they can use the app on an Apple device, an Android device, or a Kindle.
Has Childcare Aware, do we have this available now? Or will we have this webinar available? If so, where? How can they go and maybe listen to this again?
Yes, if you would like to see this webinar on the Daily Vroom app, we will upload it to our website in the next week. And our website is usa.childcareaware.org, and then it's going to be /Vroom. And from there, you'll see all the different areas we have for Vroom, and one of them will talk about the webinars. You click on that link, and you'll see the past webinars.
And our other first two webinars are already up there already, right? So they can go click on those right now and listen. If they missed one of the first two webinars, they could go.
Correct.
That's a great, great resource. And don't forget social media. Get out there.
And we definitely want you to be creative with this. Find ways that you can use Vroom to amplify, to excite, to encourage, engage your parents, your facility, and your children. So again, if you have any questions, please reach us at joinvroom.org. You can email us directly at vroom@usa.childcareaware.org. And we also have a Vroom Week here at Childcare Aware of America coming up October 16th through 20th. And during that time, we'll allow providers and parents from all over the country to participate and do Vroom tips that we have chosen for a chance to win prizes. So to learn more information about that, you'll probably receive an email, but also just visit our website again, the usa.childcareaware.org. It should be in the chat box now, and /Vroom to find out more information. Again, we encourage your questions, comments, concerns, anything. We want to thank you for joining us, and have a great evening.
Happy Vrooming.